Um, I didn't want to get into the Orange Ape, but yesterday, Frank Bruni's column in the New York Times once again got to me. Let me share a little bit of it with you. This is what Frank Bruni wrote. There are leaders who are ahead of their times, leaders who are behind their times, and then there's Donald Trump, who comes from another time altogether. He's stuck somewhere closer to the Stone Age than to Stonewall, and the Supreme Court just told him so. In a 6-3 decision, the justices ruled last Monday that gay and transgender people are protected by a landmark federal civil rights law. It was a stunning milestone to LGBTQ progress. It was also a major slap at Trump, whose administration has gone perversely far out of its way, not merely to halt advances made during the Obama years, but to turn back the clock. The court, even with 2 Trump appointees, moves with the illuminated society around it. Trump just grovels before his blinkered base. And while Trump is often clueless about public opinion, the court seems to be at least loosely tethered to it, as with a 5-4 ruling on Thursday that nixed Trump's intended scuttling of a program that protected immigrants known as Dreamers from deportation. And in some polling, about 75% of Americans support that program. Trump tweeted just after the immigration decision was handed down, quote, "Do you get the impression that the Supreme Court doesn't like me?" End quote. Holy fuck. Bruni writes, "No, I merely get the impression that a majority of the justices are sane. And might I add, of course, not all of them, for sure." Bruni writes, "It's one of the great riddles of Trump's presidency how a man so spectacularly out of touch and out of sync with so many Americans could wind up ruling over us. And he falls further out of touch and more clangorously out of sync by the second. While the rest of the country graduates from Gone with the Wind to 12 Years a Slave, Trump clings to terra tighter than Scarlet ever did. While the National Football League finally blesses many players' desire to kneel during the national anthem, Trump still curses it. While Juneteenth lodges ever deeper into the national consciousness and has been mentioned annually in official White House statements, Trump has to have a black Secret Service agent explain it to him, as Michael Bender of the Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday. Sleepy Joe Biden? Trump, in the midst of a great so-called awakening, is Rip Van Winkle. And should he ever be roused from his culturally oblivious snooze, he might want meatloaf for lunch and a well-done steak for dinner. He's an impossibly beefy man in an impossible burger world. No president's agenda and sensibility are in perfect tune with the country's mood and the cultural zeitgeist, but Trump's discordance is ear-splitting. As Americans came to depend on Obamacare, Trump came to kill it. As Americans grew receptive to restrictions on firearms, Trump grew submissive to the NRA. As Americans focused on climate change, Trump ramped up offshore drilling. He thinks that taking the contrary position makes him courageous, when really it just makes him obtuse. He's an imagination-starved anachronism in visionary drag. Oh, God, I like that. In fact, Bruni writes, I have a new theory for why he chose the running mate he did. Mike Pence, who calls his wife Karen Mother, was one of the few men in America who made Trump look positively postmodern. And that damned wall of Trump's, the wretched hallucination at the center of his political identity? Poll after poll show that most Americans don't want it. Not if Mexico pays for it, not if Martians pay for it. Not if Trump, Pence, and Ivanka put on coveralls and build the monstrosity themselves. Actually, a correction here, Bruni writes, I suspect that most Americans would back that last scenario, and by a lopsided margin if Stephen Miller and Betsy DeVos joined the work crew.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.